The night sky over Earth was calm, full of stars in a quiet forest near a military base. A loud noise tore through the silence. A fireball streaked across the sky. Animals ran, trees shook. Something had entered Earth's atmosphere. It crashed hard into the woods. Inside the smoking crater, two sisters slowly moved. Their ship was broken. Metal bent and sparks flew. Zero groaned as she pulled Lena from a tangled seat. Both had cuts and bruises. Their breathing was shaky, but they were alive. "We made it," Zero whispered. "Barely," Lena replied, holding her arm. "They really sent us away, just like that." Zero clenched her fists. She was older, stronger, always the protector. "We refused to follow a cruel order. The Emperor didn't like that. Now we're exiled." They looked at the sky above. This was not their world, not even close. Meanwhile, not far from the crash, two human soldiers were doing a night patrol. Nate was tall and calm, always focused. Brian was younger and joked often, but both were serious when needed. "You hear that?" Brian said, pointing at the sky. "That wasn't a meteor," Nate said. "Too controlled. Let's check it out." The two grabbed their gear and moved through the forest. Smoke rose ahead. The ground trembled slightly. They found a crater, and in it, something clearly not human. A strange ship, still glowing, sat broken in the dirt. As they approached, they heard movement. Both raised their weapons until they saw two figures stumbling out. The girls didn't look human. Glowing lines ran along their skin, and their eyes had a strange light. Their bodies were humanoid, but clearly not from Earth. "What the?" Brian whispered. "Drop the guns," Nate said quickly. "They're hurt." Zero pulled Lena behind her, growling and warning. "We don't want to fight," Nate said. "Hands up, are you? Can you understand me?" Zero looked at him, then slowly nodded. "We speak many tongues." Brian blinked. "Did she just—" "Yeah," Nate replied, eyes wide. "They can talk." Lena collapsed. Zero caught her. "She's hurt." Zero said, "We need help." Against all orders, Nate stepped forward. "Come with us. We'll help. But we need to move fast, before others find you." Zero studied his face. Humans were strange, fleshy, fragile, yet there was something real in his voice. "Trust." She gave a slow nod. The two soldiers led the sisters through the forest, avoiding roads. Soon, they reached a back entrance of the base. Nate used his clearance to sneak them in through an unused hangar. Once inside, they grabbed medical kits. "We're not supposed to bring outsiders here," Brian whispered. "They're not just outsiders," Nate said. "They're refugees." While Brian patched Lena's arm, Nate sat with Zero. "You came from far away," he said. "Too far," Zero answered. "Our home is full of power and pride, but also pain. We refused to join a war. We were punished." "You were brave," Nate said. Zira looked at him closely. "You're a soldier. You understand war." "I've seen enough of it," Nate replied. Lena stirred and sat up, her face pale but steady. "Where are we?" "Earth," Brian said, grinning. "The best planet we've got." "You're strange," Lena replied. "Takes one to know." "One," Brian laughed. Though their situation was tense, a soft warmth started to build in the room. Hours passed. Outside, the military began picking up strange readings near the forest. Higher-ups got alerts. People talked of meteors. Nobody yet knew aliens had landed. Two young women with stories, skills, and wounds deeper than anyone guessed. As the sun began to rise, Zira and Lena sat quietly in the hangar watching the orange light through the open door. "What now?" Lena asked. "We survive," Zira said. Nate and Brian sat nearby, tired but alert. "We'll help you," Nate said. "Why?" Zira asked. "Because it's the right thing," he said. The two sisters shared a glance. On their planet, kindness was rare. On Earth, maybe it still had power. And so, on the first day of their exile, in a hidden corner of Earth, two alien sisters found shelter, help, and a spark of something new. Hope. They didn't know what was coming, but something told them they wouldn't face it alone. For the next few days, the hangar became home for Zira and Lena. It was cold and dusty, but it was quiet. No one else knew they were there, just Nate and Brian. The sisters healed slowly. Human medicine worked, but their alien bodies needed more time. Zira stayed alert. She didn't trust isolated. She watched every corner, every sound. Lena, however, grew more curious. She asked Brian questions about Earth, about people, and why soldiers helped others. Brian laughed a lot when he was around her. "You ask too many questions, and you give strange answers," Lena replied with a smirk. Nate brought food, clothes, and blankets. Zira didn't eat much. She studied his behavior. "You act like a warrior," she said one night, but your heart is too soft. Soft isn't always weak, Nate replied. Sometimes it's what keeps us strong. Zero didn't answer, but she looked away, hiding the small smile on her lips each night. The sisters told the soldiers small pieces of their story, how they were raised on a strong but cruel planet, how they trained from childhood, how the Emperor demanded loyalty, even when it meant hurting the innocent, and how the sisters refused, choosing exile over blood. We were thrown out like trash, Lena whispered, but we didn't want to be monsters. Brian placed a hand on her shoulder. You did the right thing. That matters. Meanwhile, the base was starting to get suspicious. Unusual energy spikes had been noticed near the forest. Military drones flew overhead. Sensors picked up small traces of alien metal, but no one had found the crash site yet. The beacon inside the sisters' ship was still active, sending a weak signal into space. Late one night, Zero woke suddenly. She felt it in her bones. Someone was close. She shook Nate awake. They're here. Nate didn't ask questions. He trusted her. He grabbed his gear and contacted Brian. What do you mean they? Brian asked. Others, Zero said. Not from Earth. They must have followed the signal. The four moved quickly. Nate and Brian helped the sisters sneak out of the base, heading back into the forest. Zero and Lena led the way through the trees. They knew how to hide their scent, their energy, even their voices. They'd been hunted before. After hours of searching, they reached the crash site. The ship was still there, burned, twisted, useless. But something was different now. Fresh tracks, deep claw marks on the trees, and a strange smell in the air. They were here, Zero whispered. Scouts, maybe hunters. Why didn't they take the ship? Nate asked. Because they're not here to recover us, Lena said. They're here to kill us. Back at the base, the general received a report. A patrol drone had spotted shadows near the crash site. The general didn't believe in aliens, but he did believe in danger. Send a team to secure the area, he ordered. Something's not right. The team never returned. As the sun rose, Zira and Lena sat near the river with the soldiers. This world is beautiful, Lena said. You should see the oceans, Brian replied. Clear water, soft sand. Maybe one day, she said, smiling. Zira stayed quiet. Her mind was heavy. They'll keep coming, she said. Until we're gone, they don't leave loose ends. Nate looked at her. Then we stop running. You'd fight for us? Zira asked. No, Nate said. I'd fight with you. The words hit something deep inside her. Later that day, Brian found an old human radio. Lena helped him fix it using alien tech. They managed to boost the signal. Instead of just calling for help, they created a jammer device that could block the beacon from calling more enemies. It won't stop them forever, Lena said, but it buys us time. The sisters started training with the soldiers. They showed Nate and Brian how to move silently, how to track without tools, and how to fight using pressure points. In return, the soldiers taught them how to handle earth weapons, rifles, grenades, and knives. Zira held a human rifle for the first time. So simple, she said. Simple doesn't mean weak, Nate replied. Neither do I, Zira said softly. Meanwhile, in deep space, a shadowy ship received a last known signal. The commander, a cold creature with silver eyes, grinned. Sisters are on a death world, he said. Send the hunters, we finish this. On Earth, Zero and Lena were no longer just hiding. They were preparing. The sisters had lost everything, but now, on this small planet, they found something new. Trust, friendship, maybe even love. And as danger grew closer, one thing became clear: they wouldn't run again. The next few days were tense. Even though the crash site was hidden deeper now, Zero and Lena could feel the danger growing. The forest no longer felt quiet, it felt like something was watching. Nate and Brian stayed close. They had asked for leave from their military duties and were granted a short break. Officially, they were on rest. Secretly, they were training with aliens. Zira and Nate would go on long walks, not saying much. Both were warriors. They spoke, more through action than words. One morning, while walking near the edge of the river, Nate handed her a metal band. What's this? She asked. A tracker, he said. If we get separated, I'll find you. Zira looked at it for a moment, then slowly put it around her wrist. Thank you. Lena and Brian, on the other hand, talked all the time. Brian had a way of making her laugh, even when she didn't want to. You're the first human I've liked, Lena said one evening. You say that like it's a big deal. Brian smiled. It is, she said. On my planet, we were told humans were wild and weak, but you're different. Brian looked down, a little shy for once. You're different too. Despite the small moments of peace, trouble was getting closer. The jammer. they had built was starting to fail. Lena tried fixing it, but the signal was too strong now. They'll find us soon, she warned. Then we hit them first, Zira said. Together, they created a plan. They returned to the crash site and removed what they could: power cells, old plasma shards, and pieces of memory cores. With Brian's help, they turned the parts into traps. The forest became a maze of hidden devices. Nate scouted the area each day, marking spots with dry mud signs only. He and Zira could read. That night, while the group rested in a cave behind the hills, Zira suddenly sat up. They're here. She could feel them, 3 shadows moving through the woods. Silent, fast, up now, she shouted. Everyone jumped to their feet. Zira grabbed her knife, Nate loaded his rifle, Brian checked their traps, and Lena scanned with her wristband. 3 hunters, Lena said, coming from the south, fast. Nate pointed. We take the high ground, move. They rushed through the trees, moving like one team. They reached a ridge above the forest. The moonlight gave them just enough to see figures below, tall, sharp-bodied aliens. They wore dark armor and carried weapons built to kill fast. Brian whispered, "Those things don't look friendly." Zira pulled out a curved blade. "They won't talk, they only kill." As the hunters passed under the ridge, Lena activated one of the traps. A sharp blast of sound hit the enemies. One staggered, grabbing its head. Brian threw a flash bomb. Another stumbled back. Nate fired first. His shot hit one hunter in the chest. It growled and fell. Zira jumped down, blade in hand. She moved, like lightning, cutting through the second one's armor. Sparks flew. The third hunter charged at Lena. Brian pushed her aside and blocked it with his body, swinging a metal rod into the enemy's leg. It fell to one knee. Lena raised her arm and fired a small pulse from her band. The hunter dropped. The forest was silent again. Nate walked over to Zira. "You okay?" She nodded. "Yes. You? A little sore." He smiled. "But we did it." Brian sat down, panting. They were fast. Too fast. Lena checked the area. "This was just a test. The real team hasn't landed yet." "How do you know?" Brian asked. "Because I know how the Empire thinks," she said. Back in space, the enemy commander watched through a glowing screen. 3 hunters gone. But now he knew where they were. He smiled cruelly. "Send the strike ship," he ordered. On Earth, the group cleaned up the scene. They burned what was left of the hunters and buried the weapons deep underground. Later that night, Zira stood alone, staring at the stars. Nate came beside her. "You don't have to fight alone anymore," he said. "I know," she whispered, "but I don't want to lose anyone. Not you, not Lena. Then we protect each other." She looked at him and nodded. "Promise, promise." A new threat was coming, and Earth wasn't ready. But Zira, Lena, Nate, and Brian were no longer just survivors. They were a team, and they were ready to fight back. As the sun rose over the forest, the group returned to their camp, tired but still standing. They had survived the attack, but everyone knew it was only the beginning. The real fight was coming soon. Zira sat near the fire, sharpening her blade with a broken crystal from her homeworld. She didn't speak much. Her mind was busy. Nate sat beside her, offering water. "You didn't sleep," he said. "I don't need sleep," Zira replied without looking up. Nate smiled a little. "You might not, but your body does." Zira stopped and looked at him. "Do you always talk so calmly?" "Only when the world's about to fall apart," Nate said. Lena and Brian were going through the gear they had taken from the fallen hunters. Their weapons were made of dark steel and strange energy coils. Lena studied the technology closely, running scans through her wristband. "This design is for quick kills," she said. "They weren't here to capture us, they were here to erase us. Then we give them something they can't erase," Brian replied. Lena paused and looked at him. "You really believe we can stop them? With the right plan, and if we can't, at least we make them bleed trying." She nodded. "You're strange, Brian." "I'll take that as a compliment," he said. Back at the base, the general had noticed more strange reports: disrupted signals, silent patrol units, and missing scouts. Something was clearly wrong. He ordered extra security along the perimeter, and sent a drone deeper into the forest. The drone flew low, its camera capturing broken trees and burned ground. When it reached the crash site, it found nothing, just scorched earth and metal debris. The real clue came when the drone scanned energy signatures in the area. They were not from Earth. The general narrowed his eyes. "Prepare the alert channel. We might be dealing with something off-world." Meanwhile, in the camp, Zira gathered everyone around a dirt map scratched into the ground. "We can't run anymore. We must strike before the real ship lands." "Strike where?" Nate asked. Their forward beacon, Lena explained. They send down a small base first. It hides in the shadows and marks the land. If we destroy it, their fleet won't find a clear landing point. And how do we find it? Brian asked. Zira pointed to a set of hills north of their camp. I feel it. They built it in a place full of stone and silence, the kind of place our hunters use. Nate stood up. Then let's take it down. The journey took half a day. The hills were rough and sharp, full of dark caves and narrow paths. The group moved carefully, using signals and hand gestures. Lena led the scans while Zira moved like a shadow. Brian watched their backs, and Nate kept his rifle ready. After a long climb, they reached a small cave opening. Inside, the air buzzed with energy. Lena raised her hand and stopped everyone. It's here. They entered slowly. Strange, glowing wires ran through the cave walls. A small device sat in the center, a pulsing orb sending signals skyward. The beacon, Zira said. Once we destroy it, the landing path breaks. Brian stepped forward. Then let's smash it. Wait, Lena said. If we destroy it the wrong way, it could alert the fleet. Zira pulled a device from her belt. This will disrupt it from the inside. She knelt beside the orb, placed the device on it, and tapped a few buttons. The orb began to flicker. 10 seconds, she said. Move. They ran out of the cave just as the beacon let out a soft flash. No explosion. No sound. Just silence. The signal was gone. We did it, Lena whispered. For now, Zira said. Far above Earth, the enemy commander watched his ship's systems. The landing path blinked, then vanished. He growled in anger. They've found the beacon, he said. Those traitors have help. He turned to his officer. Prepare full assault. We take the planet, and burn everything. On the ground, Zira and the others looked at the sky. Dark clouds were forming, not from weather but from what was coming. Nate placed a hand on Zira's shoulder. We're ready. No, Zira said. Not yet, but we will be. They had broken the signal, they had shaken the Empire, but now they had to prepare for the real fight. The countdown to war had begun. The forest air was thick with tension. After destroying the beacon, the group had returned to their hidden camp. Everything was quiet, but it wasn't the peaceful kind of quiet. It was the kind that made your skin feel cold. Zira kept pacing. Her eyes scanned the sky every few minutes. She knew what came next. She had seen it before on other planets. Once the Empire lost a signal, they stopped waiting. They attacked. Nate tried to calm her. We still have time, he said. Zira shook her head. Not much. Maybe a day, maybe less. Lena sat beside Brian, working on a small box made of alien parts and earth tools. It looked like a bomb, but she called it a shield core. It do again? Brian asked. It creates a short shield dome, she said. Enough to block one heavy blast, maybe two if we're lucky. And after that, we run, Lena said with a half smile. Great, Brian sighed. They had made traps, weapons, and shields. They had planned escape routes and set warning signals in the trees, but even with all that, they were only for people. The enemy would bring ships, weapons, and more soldiers than the forest could hide from. That evening, Nate and Zira stood watch together. The wind was cold, and the stars above blinked without mercy. I never thought I'd care about someone like this, Nate said softly. Zira looked at him. Someone like what? Someone from another world. She didn't answer right away. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, You're the first person who treated me like I matter. Not just a tool, not just a fighter. Nate looked at her. You matter more than you think. A loud beep cut through the night. Lena's scanner blinked red. Something's entering the atmosphere, she said. How many? Zira asked. One ship, but big. They grabbed their gear and ran to the high ridge. From there, they could see the sky light up. A glowing shape broke through the clouds, black, smooth, and massive. A dropship, Lena said. They're sending a strike team. Zira's eyes narrowed. Then we meet them before they reach the ground. They moved fast through the forest, reaching the open field near the eastern hills. The ship landed with a loud thud, shaking the ground. Trees bent from the force. Dirt blew into the air. The ramp opened slowly. Out walked 6 armored enemies, tall, sharp-bodied, and moving, like shadows. Behind them, strange 4-legged machines followed battle drones. Brian whispered, That's a lot. We've fought worse, Zira replied. The team split up. Brian and Lena went left toward the high rocks. Nate and Zira stayed low, moving through thick bushes. They had to be smart. A direct fight meant death. Brian threw a flash charge, blinding the drones. Lena fired her pulse blaster, taking down one with a precise shot. Zira and Nate attacked from the side. Zira moved fast, blade spinning, cutting through armor like it was paper. Nate shot 2 of the enemies before they even turned to face him, but the enemy wasn't weak. One drone locked onto Lena. She dodged, but it clipped her side. Brian grabbed a rock and smashed the drone's leg, causing it to fall. "You okay?" he shouted. "I'm fine," Lena gasped, holding her side. "Just keep moving." Zira faced the commander of the group. He was taller, his armor darker. He growled in her language. "You will not escape again." "I'm not running," she said, charging at him. Their fight was fierce, blade against blade. Sparks flew, dirt kicked up under their feet. Nate tried to help, but 2 drones blocked his path. He fought hard, his training kicking in. Brian threw the shield core in the middle of the field. A dome formed, glowing bright. It blocked 2 incoming blasts from the enemy ship above. The dome held dash barely. Lena, bleeding but focused, placed another trap under a large tree. As the enemies moved close, she triggered it. The explosion brought the tree down, crushing 2 drones. Finally, Zero broke the commander's defense. Her blade pierced his chest. He staggered, fell, and didn't move again. The rest of the enemies tried to retreat, but Nate fired at the dropship's ramp. Lena launched a pulse shot that hit the engine. Flames burst out, and the ship lifted off in a panic, leaving its ground team behind. The forest went still. The team stood in silence, catching their breath. "Is it over?" Brian asked. "For now," Zira said. They had won a battle but not the war. They all knew more would come. But tonight, Earth was safe. And the sisters were no longer alone. The battlefield was quiet now. Smoke drifted through the trees. The broken parts of drones and fallen enemies lay scattered on the ground. Zira wiped blood from her blade and looked around. Everyone was still standing. Brian helped Lena sit against a tree. Her side was burned and her face looked pale, but she forced a smile. "Still alive," she said softly. "You scared me," Brian said, kneeling beside her. "Don't ever do that again." "I'll try," she whispered, "but no promises." Nate walked up, checking their gear. "We need to move. They'll send another wave when they lose contact with this one." Zira nodded. "We can't fight like this again. We need help." "Who's going to believe us?" Brian asked. Cira looked at Nate. "We make them believe." They packed what they could and moved back toward the base. This time they didn't sneak through the back. Zira walked straight through the gate with Nate at her side. Lena and Brian followed behind. The guards shouted. Alarms went off. Soldiers surrounded them, rifles pointed. "What's going on here?" barked a voice. It was the general. Nate stepped forward. "Sir, you need to listen. You brought them here." The general's face was hard. Cira stepped forward. "I don't want your planet. I only want to protect it." "From what?" he asked. "From them," Zira said, pulling a small orb from her belt and tossing it to the ground. A hologram rose. Up footage from the fight. Alien soldiers landing, the shield dome, the dropship, the drone machines, everything. The general stared at it in silence. "That's not human tech," he said. "No," Nate said. "It's real, and it's coming." The general looked at Zira and Lena. "You should be enemies." "Why help us?" Lena stood up, her voice soft but clear. "Because we know what it feels like to be left behind." There was a long pause. Finally, the general said, "Bring them in." The sisters were taken into the base, but not as prisoners. They were given medical treatment, food, and access to tools. For the first time they had real support. Inside the lab, Lena worked with Earth engineers, showing them how to combine alien energy with human weapons. The first fusion pulse rifle was born that night. Zira trained with elite soldiers, teaching them how to fight the way she had been trained back home: quick, focused, deadly. Her respect for Nate grew every time they trained. He was strong, smart, and always calm. She had never trusted anyone like this before. One evening, after training, Zira and Nate stood under the stars. They didn't say much. Words weren't needed. "When this is over," Zira finally said, "what happens to us?" Nate looked at her. "We decide together." On the other side of the base, Brian sat beside Lena's hospital bed. Her side was bandaged, and machines beeped softly. "You know," Brian said, "Earth isn't that bad. It has strange weather," Lena said, "and good people," Brian added. "Like you, especially me." He smiled. Lena reached out and held his hand. "Don't leave me." "Never," Brian said. Just then, alarms rang out again. Red lights flashed. Everyone jumped to their feet. A soldier ran into the room. Another ship, bigger, heading straight toward us. Zira's voice was steady. "Then we make our stand here." The general called a full alert. The base prepared for battle. For the first time, humans and aliens stood side by side. Brian gave Lena a pulse gun. "Ready, always." she said. Zira checked her blade and looked at Nate. You still with me? Until the end, he replied. The skies turned dark as the enemy ship entered the atmosphere. This one was different, twice the size, with heavy cannons and drop pods. Zira stood at the front of the line. Her voice was loud. We fight not because we must, but because we choose to. We protect this ground, this base, these people. Today we show them this planet is not theirs to take. Cheers followed her words. Human soldiers raised their weapons, engineers powered up fusion tech, and far behind them, Lena activated a secret defense grid she had built with Brian. As the enemy ship lowered and the first pods dropped, Zira gave the signal. Now, the enemy ship loomed above like a dark cloud. Its heavy engines shook the ground beneath the base. Pods dropped fast, bursting open and spilling out dozens of armored soldiers and machines. The final battle had arrived. Zira stood at the front, blade ready. Beside her, Nate loaded his rifle, eyes sharp. Brian checked Lena's shield core one last time. The sisters and soldiers knew this fight would decide everything. The enemy soldiers charged forward, weapons blazing. The Earth defenders fired back, mixing human guns and alien tech. Fusion beams cut through the air while blades clashed in close combat. Zira moved like a storm. She sliced through enemy lines, protecting Nate when a blast nearly hit him. Nate fought fiercely, never leaving her side. Brian ran to Lena, covering her as she worked the shield core, keeping their group safe. The battle was chaos. Explosions cracked the sky, machines fell, and soldiers shouted. In the middle of the fight, Zira saw the enemy commander step forward, larger, stronger, with cold silver eyes. He roared, rushing at her with a heavy blade. They clashed violently. Every strike echoed like thunder. Zira pushed back with all her strength but knew she couldn't win alone. Nate ran to help, but the commander knocked him aside with a powerful blow. Zira fell wounded. Brian and Lena rushed to her side. Brian helped her up, while Lena fired pulses at the commander, trying to weaken him. Keep fighting. Zira gasped. Nate stood, wiping blood from his face. We're not done yet. The soldiers rallied. The humans and aliens fought as one, pushing the enemy back. The shield core glowed, blocking heavy blasts. Traps set by Lena exploded around the enemy, breaking their formations. Finally, Zira found her strength. She charged the commander again, this time with Nate backing her up. Together they fought like one. Zira's blade struck deep. The commander staggered and fell, defeated. The enemy forces hesitated, then began retreating toward their ship. Lena activated the last Trapan energy net that captured the fleeing soldiers and drones. The enemy ship lifted off slowly, engines smoking. The skies cleared. The battle was over. The soldiers cheered. Zira and Lena stood with Nate and Brian, battered but victorious. The general approached. You saved us all, he said. Earth owes you a debt. Zira smiled softly. We only wanted a chance to live and to protect. Nate looked at Zira and Lena. You're not just aliens anymore. You're family. Brian nodded. And this is your home now. Under the stars, the four sat together, quiet but content. Zira looked at Nate. What now? Now, we rebuild, he said. And we prepare for whatever comes next. Lena squeezed Brian's hand. Together they had come as exiles, strangers on a new world. Now, they were heroes, soldiers, friends, lovers. And Earth was their home.